us here on what was promised as a glorious Indian summer by the Met Office. But hey, that's good. It's looking autumnal, and that's just the time to do some autumnal dishes. So let's go and get some ingredients. Thankfully, the aubergine situation is inside. So
Looking good.
looking good. We have one there. There we go.
Jesus, look at the size of that one.
Yeah. So today we are going to be making aubergine, Swiss chard, and mushroom, which are in the fridge, lasagna. So for this, you will need a bunch of chard, probably about that size. I'm not going to bother weighing it, but you can see how much is there in my hand. A very large aubergine or 2 medium aubergines, and mushrooms, probably half a pound, possibly more. Okay, we'll also need a large onion, chopped, possibly a garlic clove, similarly chopped, some sheets of lasagna, a little tub of ricotta cheese, and also we will need to make a bechamel sauce. I usually make a bechamel with 50 grams of butter, 50 grams of white flour, possibly pop a bay leaf in there, and a pint of milk. Forced to start wearing a sort of chain rope thing.
Okay, so mushrooms, how much again?
Probably about, I don't know, 250 grams. I don't know. I mean, see, the problem is I generally tend to do everything by sight rather than strict measurements. You know, is that going to be enough?
Yeah.
But obviously, for the purposes of doing these little filming bits, it is very useful to actually
Give us a rough idea of how much.
give a rough idea of how much. So
Look at the size of that aubergine.
yeah, freakish, isn't it? So yeah, aubergines. Very tricky buggers to grow in this climate. Luckily, I have a greenhouse, as you will have seen me going into earlier to retrieve this. And icky bit there, just cut that out. So I tend to sow the seeds. It's a bit odd why they're so difficult, because they are related to tomatoes and potatoes, which grow very favourably in our climate. Tomatoes obviously under glass, but yes, it's a mystery really.
So these are being diced up quite finely, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So probably about that size.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to move the lasagna. I'm going to move the special pack of cards. Jono's trademark for his filming.
You're giving it away.
Giving it away. Other interesting fact about aubergines is, well, also from a culinary point of view, is that modern aubergines that are generally available in the shops, or markets,
Right.
they don't tend to require salting before you cook them. The reason they require salting is to draw out, sort of nasty, bitter taste, really. But, particularly most commercial grown varieties don't need that anymore. And even though these are homegrown, it's not really going to be needed, because the varieties you get to grow, you don't generally.
Isn't it to pull out the water as well?
Yeah, there's a little. Well, water will come out, but that water is sort of like has a very bitter taste.
Right.
The other thing is that aubergines are well known for causing you wind. The Italian word for aubergine is melanzana, which I roughly believe translates as bad apple. So it's a sort of apple, it sort of gives you gut's ache. So now we've established the oil's up to heat, we're just going to shove in the rest of the onion. So this was a large onion.
Okay.
And we're just going to add a little bit of salt to that. And then just sort of leave that on heat just to sweat down the onions. You know, as we know, this can take some time. We'll just leave that to sweat down.
Cool.
After the onions have sweated down, I'll be putting in the aubergine, because aubergine can take a bit of a while to sweat down, particularly if you've still got the skin on it. There's nothing worse than having a sort of bit of rubbery, bouncy aubergine in a recipe. So you need it to sort of sweat down so it's nice and soft. Then we'll be sort of adding the mushrooms, a little bit of seasoning. Might put a little bit of nutmeg in, which I didn't mention earlier, but might put a little bit of nutmeg in because that should set off the chard we're going to put in as well. Right, sweating down. I'm sure lots of people will look at my method of putting aubergine into the bowl, you know, with sheer horror. And at this stage, I'd probably just give it a good blast with some black pepper.
So how much we got in there?
Some.
An amount.
Yeah, some. Basically, keep going until I'm sort of satisfied. And oh, I don't know. That's probably 125 grams. I don't know.
Oh, that is starting to smell pretty good.
And the ingredients are doing. Okay, I think now we can add the mushrooms to that.
Bechamel's done, right?
Yeah. So just sort of leaving that on the side. You'd be surprised how much stuff sort of, you know, reduces down. So with chard, as you can see, nice sort of green white stalk, leafy bit. Generally best just to separate and chop the white stalky bit first. So, yeah. Stir that through. We've got here 125 gram. Sorry, we've got a.
Good.
So I've got here 250 grams of ricotta cheese. I'm just going to add half of it for the moment, a little bit over half maybe, and just stir that in and see if I'm happy with the consistency. Might put a little bit more in. I'm just going to leave that so reduce a bit. Might put a bit more cheese in a minute. I think we're pretty much done with that. So in a moment I am just going to start assembling and pop in the oven. So, okay, so now come to the assemblage part of this. And, you know, again, not a great deal of ceremony. Just pile it all in. So I'm now just putting in, you know, a little layer of bechamel just there, and sort of smooth that over a little bit. All important, the actual lasagna. I'm just using supermarket dried, and probably best if I do it along. Next layer. You know, again, as I say, it doesn't have to be, well, I mean, it's all going to melt in the oven, so you don't have to be absolutely mad about how you do it. Another little bit of bechamel, but obviously saving some because we're going to top that off. And then final layer of bechamel on that. And I think we might sort of grate a little bit more cheese on top of that as well, just to sort of, you know, cherry on the cake. Okay. So, as it turns out, I didn't put any extra cheese on top. Now I'm going to whack that in a fan oven This is at about 180. Anything between 150, 200, you know, juggle around the times. That's probably going to have to go in for at least 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
Okay, so 40 minutes later?
Yeah, you know, well, 40 minutes to an hour, I think. And yeah, just see how this has worked out. Of course, the first scoop is always the worst one.
Oh, look at that leverage action there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So now we have the all-important taste test, and the roles are reversed. I'm now doing the filming.
Right. I did actually have a little taste